Hi there. So it occurs to me that I managed to go that entire last part without actually getting to my point. Whole deal that I was hoping to eventually get to. And that is really just what defines a roguelike specifically. Because this is a genre that I have loved since I was a little kid. It's something, I was, I don't know, probably a couple dozen titles in by the time I actually even fully started understanding what it was. And usually what you hear tossed around has pretty much stuff to do with procedural generation, and it's just got to be completely random. Gotta have all your loot stuff going on, and gotta have permadeath. And I think that's why I ended up loving this one so much, because it kind of figured out which parts of that are actually true. So specifically, one of the questions I was asked was, is Diablo a roguelike? And I was thinking, whether that actually made sense, because by some definition, anything that has permadeath can, be one, as long as it's random enough, which I understand in that one, the levels are set, it's the loot that's randomized. And typically, as far as I've seen with good roguelikes, the items are not, truly randomized. You maybe see variants of some things, but slight variants. Like, let's say you find a knife, and that one's damaged, or you find another one that's, sharpened, or got some sort of upgrade to it. But generally speaking, there's still, a baseline that's, it doesn't vary too much. Like, you don't have one that's, not going to put a dent in a can, and another one that's going to rip a tank open. Stuff like that. Like, in the case of SOTS here, pretty much what you see is, well, what you get in all of your items. You just have a thing. You get upgrades that you can find, and they may be good or bad, and you have to identify them first. And that identification aspect is something that I've seen missed in a lot of them. It's kind of one of those randomization things that makes a lot of sense. So, first of all, the name with the roguelike. There was a game called Rogue, I believe it was from the 80s or something like that. And every time you went through, it had scrolls and drinks, and to some degree weapons that were randomized. And I believe you were just looking for a specific thing, or trying to get to a specific floor. That's usually what it's going to end up being. You have some specific areas that you have to travel through, or you have to go reach a particular objective. And, by and large, that's the formula. You have some aspect of randomization, like some mechanic has to effectively be randomized. There has to be, randomization to the areas, to some degree. And, well, you have your whole permadeath thing. Which is funny because it's not... The point of the whole permadeath thing isn't random deaths, which a lot of things seem to misunderstand. Like, for example, I absolutely adored Rogue Legacy as a game. I don't think it's much of a roguelike. Well, I mean, I think it's actually changed its title to Roguelite now. But if the option is there, or the ability is there to basically get just randomly, unceremoniously, and regularly killed off by something, then it kind of gets away from the experience. Because most of these take place in, some kind of pretty dire situation. And of course there's exceptions, but generally speaking, it's supposed to be, somebody's going through a pretty desperate scenario here. They need to take risks in order to actually succeed. So that's kind of the setup there. Like in this case, this, pretty much entire planet thing is overrun. This is the last hope that these people have. So the question of why don't they just leave is not there. It's their only option. And it's not, giant invasion or whatever happened. That's actually for the main games in the series. Because there's constantly friggin' wars going on. But generally speaking, there's no need for... You have your answer as to why they don't abandon what they're doing. On top of that, you basically have a situation where you're pressured from both sides. You're having difficulty moving forward, you can't go back, so there's, kind of that awkward spacing there, as it were. Let me take a quick look at this here. Yes. Alright. So okay, spacing, some randomization, all that. And here's the thing. Look at the difference. Like, okay, we look at one of the random creatures here. 2 to 4, alright? This guy's got 110. There's a pretty huge health difference, and the main point is that they are there to pressure you. Healing options are limited, but you are still dramatically tougher than everything else there. Oh. Probably shouldn't have risked the melee cut there. Still pretty inaccurate at this point. But yeah. So there has to be that pressure from both sides. And another one that does this fantastically is FTL. So the general idea there is just you're constantly being chased by a giant mob you can't ever beat. You constantly have to move forward. And at the same time, you're supposed to be managing fuel for moving forward, you're supposed to be managing risk to your crew, you're supposed to be managing just pretty much whatever. Managing repairs to your ship, managing politics in some cases. And then you finally get to the very end, and well, you're not actually at the end. Now go back and actually fight that giant mob because you have an army. And it's just such an amazing setup when they have you go through all that. Also, by the way, I set off an alarm there, so... Oh, crap. And now's the time to run back, close the door, pop some armor on. Because I'm hoping not to get absolutely pasted like last time. Oh, that's one of the hefty ones. Alright, I don't want to take a step forward because of the obvious. There we go. Bum rush this guy. But yeah, so there has to be a tension to it, though. Like, there's some that I flat out couldn't stand. Like, one good example is one that I see absolutely adored by a lot of people, which was Tome. And, well, main reason I can't stand that one is there's randomization and then there's that. So basically all your items are randomized, all of your locations are randomized, there's no actual incentive for your person to be moving forward there, other than, hey, I want to go do the whole explorer thing. And you're getting yourself into these stupidly dangerous situations for no, personal reason other than, screw it, I want to go do shenanigans. And, I don't know, I just never could really get into that one. I mean, you know that there's a bit of an issue when there's a button to just auto explore things. As part of the whole fun of a roguelike is the whole tension of exploring things, not pushing a button to auto explore it all. Not to mention when the actual fights happen, all of the damage is so varied that you just end up getting killed randomly. I mean, I don't know, I think I put, I want to say 20 hours into that thing. And kept running into the same thing of, I would be doing fine, but then out of nowhere there was just something that I couldn't do nearly enough damage to possibly beat in an outright fight, but there was no actual option to do anything else. I was using all kinds of abilities to get away and try to set up traps and things like that, but they were never enough. They always seemed like just a toy that wasn't doing anything. And, I saw a lot of people complaining about the same thing. Oh, for Christ's sake, that's a turret and a friggin' bear. Alright. Let's shoot you. Run across the hallway. But yeah, so I don't hear that tension aspect really mentioned much. And there's also got to be a certain, loneliness to the whole experience, for lack of a better term. And one that I saw that I think did a good job, personally I think this one does the best, But playing through Dreadmore a few times, that one, it really seemed to nail the whole "you are completely alone here" feeling. And again, it seems like a weird thing to point out, but actually FTL does it too. In terms of, you can't really have a whole lot of, friends and all that around, because that gets rid of the tension. And even when you do have them, they can't be effective enough to pretty much change the entire game around you. Actually, another one that nails this pretty well, and again, this is kind of stretching the definition of a roguelike here, but personally, I've always viewed the XCOM remakes as roguelikes. I've viewed the original XCOMs as that, and that's why they come with an Iron Man mode. Just because there's that same, every decision's got weight to it, there's that same, death is final, that's it kind of situation going on. And at the same time, there's still a certain progression. There has to be progression of some sort. So like in this one, your progression is... well, you have your standard level progression, which just makes you kind of generally tougher. Your skills go up very slightly, like almost unnoticeably per level, but your health goes up quite a bit. So the farther you go, the less likely you are to actually outright lose a fight without making some mistakes along the way. And that kind of gets to the actual meat of what makes the entire genre work. Because it is supposed to be entirely based on, well, not so much punishing, one mistake, but just punishing a series of mistakes. Like right here. When I came in, I started going around just fighting everything at random. I didn't pay attention, and ended up firing the pistol at something far away, which basically drew more attention. And so now there's stuff coming in from all over the place. I have to try and finish stuff off as fast as possible in order to be able to at least secure one room to have a safe area. Because this one's all about being able to secure your little safe spot, find, crafting stations if you can get a hold of them, and generally just set traps, find what you need to find, set the stuff that you need to set, and we'll go from there. What do I need here? Foraging already went up. Food. What I need. And like right here, I'm actually burning through his starting armor pretty quick. But right now, I don't really have any, food stockpiles set up. I don't really have any decent items that have dropped yet. At the very least, I need to set that up. And I also have at least a couple enemies out there that have been triggered but haven't started fighting yet. And usually it's good to have, a bit of comedy to the whole thing too. Like, okay, you got your friggin' what's it? Grinch reference right here. You got Blandwich, made from moldy bread, moldy cheese, and raw meat. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, the Bug Boy. This guy's favorite food. So he ends up getting a lot more from that. Somebody stopping in the middle of their weird space adventure to make some chocolate fondue. And you have to consider the things that they're making this out of. I mean, they're taking a couple chocolate Easter eggs. They're taking some splints of bone, some bread, which is basically just like rock bread, and a random thing of flavor oils that they just sort of found lying around to make some chocolate fondue. Making truffles, making lanterns, which I think this is like a fear grenade if I remember right. A fake potato salad. I mean, it's just funny because here's this whole dire situation. The characters are funny, the foods are funny, and it all just meshes together so friggin' well. Alright, so there's one of them. Now this is a rat thing, so I don't want to be wearing this. They like to tear through armor pretty quick. Some kind of blob thing's coming up too. Crap. And it's funny because on paper, you know, you look at it, like, okay, they're just going through and they're sawing through mobs. And that's the funny thing, because there's like, on basic principle, yes, that's kind of what's going on. But the main core of the game is pretty much deciding, you know, where you want to have sight lines to, where you want people to be able, or other creatures or whatever, to see you from, you know, how fast you're going to proceed to other rooms, you know, how this is affecting your food situation, how this is affecting your equipment, and all that. Now, I won't be able to take on both these guys at the same time. So I'm gonna burninate the countryside over here. Alright, perfect. And this might set off an alarm and start this all over again. Yep. And I'm sick in the process. Alright. And also at the same time, there's that friggin' crazy person running around shooting random things. Which is useful for what they're doing right now. But if they get any loot containers, that's a problem. Because that might be a bit of food that was needed. Okay. Well, might as well see if this bar helps at all. Also, another thing that, you know, I don't hear discussed as much. A lot of roguelikes don't tend to have enough of a variety of items, I've found. And I understand they're all trying to do their own thing. But again, I wish this was emulated more often, where instead of just stat boosts and things like that, there's more unique effects to stuff. Like, I know it's a whole new mechanic, but for example, for one specific item, they added in the ability to pretty much weld a door shut. Yes, it needed to be specifically programmed, it needed its own animations and its own everything, but it's one more tool to be used. I mean, they weren't working with a hell of a lot of resources, but they did a lot of good stuff with what they had. So, for example, with the knife gun here, they didn't specifically give its own, you know, animation for being used, because there would have been one extra one for each character. But still, you know, just the regular knife animation works fine. Sorry, lost my train of thought a little bit. That happens a lot. I'm dead. And ambush. Friggin' brain punch to death. And I guess that effect's just gonna keep going on in the background. Alright. That's seriously just gonna keep going? Alright, so I think for comparison, I'll show off one of the other... It's seriously just gonna keep going, isn't it? Wow. Alright, well... Friggin' game's glitched. Let's say the Striker. Also one of the ones that's generally viewed as inviable. Alright, I'm gonna try to get to a container, see if that turns that off. Alright, so here's the deal with the Striker. They're the tech expert. They come with an inventory expander right off the bat. They come with a healing drone, because they can only move one tile per turn. They're kind of the classic roguelike type of thing. They come with an analyzer, they come with a drone. They have one drone that's able to just, like, look around them. They have one drone that's able to fight for them. Although that's a one-time use thing. They have a drone for healing them over time. And they start off with some other weapons and a spear. And they're a frickin' dragon. Oh, that's awesome. And a weird space dragon. Alright, I need to find a locker of some sort, see if that turns off the weird space effect. Also, yeah, right off the bat, you can tell her food rate is awful. When she's just got to the entrance, and it's already, you know, down for a full meal. The spear's reasonably powerful. Enough to take care of the trash mobs. And there are a lot of trash mobs in Seriously. I think I'll probably show a normal one. Oh, crap. That is very close. Alright, this is another instant heal item. They're not all instant heals. Most medkits aren't. But there we go. Toxos from you. Okay, that was a bit absurd for the first room. And she starts with a lot of high stats, but does not have a hell of a lot of usable ones. Alright, so foraging is super high, so she gets a lot of points right off the bat. Most of her stuff's already up. Probably invest a little into pistols, because that'll be needed. And a little into medical, because that's apparently becoming necessary. Yeah, Psy. Yeah, I pretty much never use her. So she's got a status shield, a berserk ability, and the ability to detect things. Might as well use that. Alright. So she is entirely about conserving movement, which I'm not very good at, which is why I don't typically use her much. Okay. Crap. Well, that was quick. Like I said, those guys grenade. Alright. And now for another character, I suppose. Now, let's say... Scion. Why not? Alright, so right off the bat, got this. This. Got a bunch of shields, he's got extra armor. Got a healing ability, he can use friggin' telekinesis, can just detect stuff. Oh yeah, and he's got a stealth suit, so he's, well, pretty much invisible to a lot of things for a while. I'm just gonna use this vibroblade until it's out of charges. Probably should have just taken the battery out of it, but whatever. He's not even good with it, is the thing. He's actually better off with his punches. Mind punch. Dead. Or at least almost. Oof. Alright, I need to recover my freaking mind punch powers over here. These guys are actually super dangerous to this guy. Alright. Should have waited to recover more, but this will be fine. He's got super high martial arts. Or melee, in this case. You can just punch everything. Mind punch. Oh yeah, and every time he uses one of those things, there's a chance it'll just improve automatically. Coffee. So he's super rough to use on these early floors. But then once you get him a proper gun and things like that, and actually level him up so he gets more points, he's pretty absurdly strong. I don't even know why he starts with this thing. He can't use it at all. I mean, it's most... I'd say it's more there as a can opener. Just helps him take care of high armor stuff if it ends up coming around. They made all of them to be at least semi-viable in Seriously. Actually, on most easy and normal runs that I've tried with this guy, he's typically got a stealth armor through to the end of the game, because nothing actually gets close to him, other than this early part. Yeah, that effect is getting a little bit annoying now. There's that floor drop. And you can see from the bar there, his eye is recovering super quick. It's a really short cooldown on that ability, too. Let's move and punch this way. And use the emergency grenade to get past there. Man, there's so friggin' many of these guys. Alright. Let's use some more patches. Pretty much floors 2 and onwards, there's gonna be a lot less bats and other such trash, so it'll be a little bit easier to get around. Let's shoot this thing. And there we go. There's the floor drop. I'm just gonna shoot anything that comes through that door. Mind punch you? Nah, just shy of having enough. Alright. Now he goes all the way up. More might. More telekinesis, gets more redaction. Foraging. I mean, this guy even gets a bunch of points as the messed up part. Get more mechanical, get more lockpick. He just quickly becomes amazing at everything. Oh my god, now he's about to die. You know, here is just a question of priorities. That's basically what this room entails. That snake does an absolute crap ton of damage. One punch is, or one TK fist is not guaranteed to kill him. This one might suddenly decide to shoot at me, which is, well, possibly gonna end up resulting in a kill depending on what ends up happening that turn. If both these attack, the snake gets to me, and she fires, that's pretty much the end of that. So I'm hoping... Okay, that did pretty much piss all. Unfortunately, it is kind of a random roll with that DK fist. And I guess this thing has a decent amount of armor. Most snakes don't. Let me see. Yeah, that is a pretty surprising amount of armor on him. Alright. Oh, balls. You knock out... Yeah. Alright, let's see. Can I get them both in that? Yeah. Alright, so knock them out. Got the TK fist back. That's not doing it. Alright, get to the ladder. Not gonna happen. Alright. There we go. Reload that. I was hoping to close the door, but got a little bit stuck. Why don't we fist you? I'll probably just close the door here. I don't want to deal with the unconscious gunner right now. Looks like there's stuff in here. And most of this room got revealed. Sometimes your general area just gets revealed when you go to a different floor. Alright. That went decently. Punch you. Alright. Punch you. Go to you. Get away from that gunner. Alright, this is far from ideal now. So if I shoot at the spider, there's a chance that the shot will be reflected. The fist can finish them off without a problem, but I have no means to use it right now. I'm gonna go ahead and close the doors. Wait a few turns for that to come back. I think this used to be 40. Because I keep thinking it's 40. Alright, so that's almost back. And it looks like the gunner's de-aggroed, so I'll just move on now. Alright, this guy needs to go. Spider's back, gunner's back, other spider's here. Wrap. That's what I was afraid of. Alright, last patch. Alright, you gotta go. Yeah, I'm toast. Extraordinarily toast. Okay, one hope is that this works. Awesome. Can you die to this? Dead. Or almost dead. Spider's gonna kill me. Yep. So that didn't go so hot. Alright. Well, dying before floor 5 pretty consistently here. But that's the way it should be. This difficulty is absurd. And I'm not very good at this.